Hey guys, Alan Jimenez here, real estate broker at HPAgents.com. Today we have probably our 10th lesson in gas stations. So by now you should understand how to read the income that's coming into the inside sales, outside sales. You know how to read contracts. You know how to deal with buyers. You know how to deal with sellers. And now we're gonna basically say, hey, now we're inside contract. Now we have a buyer. And we have a buyer on the hook. He has signed a sales contract. It's fully executed. All parties have a copy of the contract. Everyone has a copy. Now things start happening. What is the inspection? So the inspection is basically a process where the buyer has the right, and it's inside the contract. He has X amount of days. Usually it's about 30 to 90 days to fulfill an inspection process. Now, inspections, who pays for it? The buyer pays for it. Now, it's not written in stone. It is not written in stone. So if you are representing a buyer, then you can write it into a contract that says that the seller will pay for the inspection, or the seller will credit the buyer for the inspection at closing, or the seller will credit the buyer for the inspection processes. You can write that in the fine print if you're representing the buyer. And if you're representing the seller, then that's just a red flag for you. Something for you to look out for. So if you see, oh wait, let me take a look at this contract that they're presenting. Does it have who pays for this? Who pays for the inspection? It's not like a house. This is not like a house. I mean, it's very expensive inspections. We're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. So it can run up to $5,000, $10,000 pretty easily. When we talk about just the inspection of the building, oh my goodness. And we talk about the inspection of the land, and then we talk about phase 1 inspections of the environmental. Then if we call it for a phase 2, oh my gosh. And then it depends on how much land we're talking about. So 1 acre, 2 acres, 3, it's just more and more expenses. And these are different parties. So we have one inspector represents the structural and foundation, but then we have other parties that do the environmental, the phase 1 and phase 2, to make sure that the land is not contaminated. It's super important, because if that land is contaminated, they won't give a loan on it. It's like, oh, I'm not going to do the phase 1, phase 2. Well, that's fine, but as long as you're not working with a bank, like if you have cash, you can do whatever you want with your cash. You don't even need an appraisal. But when it comes down to you working with a bank, you need to get a loan. Gas stations are high risk. They don't like gas stations, and that's just because of the problems they've had with contamination of the tanks. And we're dealing with harsh chemicals. Yeah, we're dealing with harsh chemicals. And in the past, the tanks were made out of, I don't remember, but something very easily that can shake them up. They get cracked and just leaking out gas. And they didn't know. They just put the tanks in there. They didn't know what's going to happen 10 years later after you put the tanks in there in the 1950s, or what happens with an earthquake, or what happens with a tremor, or whatever. Something happens where the tanks are not flexible. Now they have these high-tech tanks, and they have sensors and things that you can put in there, and they can easily check for contamination. So that's awesome on the new gas stations. But now you understand why the inspection is so expensive. You know what to look out for. You know try to negotiate. If you're representing the buyer, look out for those red flags. If you're representing the seller, you know that it takes multiple parties to fulfill an inspection. We're talking about structural, phase 1, phase 2. That's the land value. So that now you're aware of what happens during inspection. You know who pays for it. Now, how long does an inspection take? How long does it take? What should you expect? Okay, so inspection usually takes on a building, general size, 2,000 square foot building, structural, with the full report, let's say 7 to 10 days. Phase 1, phase 2, you can do these simultaneously. Phase 1 is going to take you 14 days. Phase 2 may take you on top of the phase 1. So another 10 days. So just to protect yourself, 24 days minimum. If you're representing the buyer, if you represent the seller, you want to have as low as an option period or feasibility period as possible, because that makes the contract go hard. When the contract goes hard, he loses his earnest money, and he can actually be sued. Most likely you just lose your earnest money, which is 1% of the price. So, $1 million or $2 million or $5 million, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. We got a lot of money on the line. So if your contract is written solidly, where he's outside the feasibility period, or he even, this is a good one. You can, after you get past inspections and he has his loan ready, you can actually say, you know what, I will give you another $10,000 off or $5,000 off if you will release the feasibility period. Why do you say I'm not going to give $5,000, $10,000 off? Well, this is what locks that buyer in. You can think of it, you have $50,000 of earnest money, or $10,000, $50,000, $20,000, whatever, in earnest money. Now the contract goes solid. He can't get out. What you want to do is you want to cut off all loopholes of the contract. You want to cut off feasibility period. You want to cut off third-party financing conditions where he can get out of the contract if he can't get financing. Now, he's like, why would I even get out of these contracts? For what? Why would I get out of the contract? You make it attractive to him. Make it attractive so that, he'll say, I'll give you $5,000 off. And you take a third-party another $5,000. Make that contract go hard. Make it go solid so he's stuck with you. You're like, you can work, you can negotiate anything. You don't even have to give him that money. It's just a bonus, like, hey, if he asks for something, I don't know, it's negotiations. If something comes up, we're like, hey, I need to get my liquor license transferred. He didn't negotiate that before, not like you would have. Say, you know what, let's go, I'm going to try to get that done for you. You get the upper hand here, I talked with the owner. He's willing to go ahead and start, the process of transferring the liquor license over to you once we go hard. So let's terminate the feasibility period. Let's terminate third-party financing conditions. Let's make this contract go hard, and we'll agree upon that. Just using leverage. So when they ask you for stuff, try to keep the upper hand. You have some things that you want to do. Don't give all your cards up front, because they're going to keep pushing you. I know these buyers. I know their culture. I know that they're going to try to save as much money as possible. We talked about in the other course about saving, your commission, not giving it up and staying strong. That's so true, because why? They're going to keep hitting you and hitting you up. So now we talked about inspections, who pays for it, how long it takes, reviewing the inspection. And now if you get a bad inspection, you can call your own inspector out to contemplate that. How can I say, not contemplate it, but to fight against it. Like, say, you got a bad roof here. You need to replace the entire roof. Let me get my inspector out. You can get your own inspector. And you don't even need an inspector. You really just need a roofer. Because trust me, if you are working on the buyer side, I highly recommend you hit. You're going to be nitpicking. And be respectful about it. Be respectful. Don't just, just say like, I need this, and this done. No. We really like the building, but the roof, man, it looks like it's about to go out. It's already 15 years old. We found some leaks and some water damage. The actual buyer is really worried about it. So if you can get that done, and I see the pipes here are 30 years old. They're made out of copper or whatever. We need that PFC to get that replaced. And he's gonna be like, it's too much. Well, I'll tell you what. We can do this. The buyer can do it on his own after closing. Let's just. That's gonna cost us $15,000, another $10,000. Just give us $25,000 off. You do that, you become the superstar for your buyer. You can even do it like outside. You don't even have to tell them. You just keep negotiating these little things. You just say, hey, I got $25,000 off your purchase price. Or I got $25,000. He's gonna go ahead and give you $25,000 at closing for credit towards your closing costs. what? And it sounds like a little bit, but it is it's a Honda Accord, brand new Honda Civic at least. So these things you do. And so we talked about all the inspections, working with the inspector if you get a bad inspection out now, what to do to contemplate that, get your own contractor out there and write that up, and try to save much money as from the seller or make as much money as the buyer. And that's the way you become the superstar when selling these gas stations and C-stores. Okay? Talk to you on the next one.